Though not Democracy Day, but it's exactly 25 years today, ever since the civilian government came into power. That is starting from 1999 down till today. As well, today we are marking the one-year anniversary of the president, as well as the 28 governors that were elected last year during the 2023 election. Quite a number of celebration, congratulatory messages has been flying around for the president as well as the governors. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television International. We will be keeping you up to date with the happenings from the front page of our Nigerian newspaper. I am Sele Elisha Dashon, and I will be doing the program alongside Rachel Tazi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sele.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. All right, let's go straight into the paper, and we will be starting with the Metrics newspaper.
The big story on Metrics: Tinubu's one-year anniversary. APC Atiku disagree. Tinubu's promise to revive economy unfulfilled. A statement from Atiku: "You are willfully blinded to Tinubu's achievements." APC fires Atiku. Buhari's appeals to Nigerians to give Tinubu more time. You can find details on page 2. Tinubu assures of federal government's determination to resolve issues delaying Seplat and ExxonMobil deal. You can start with the details on the front page. Amid link with Man United managerial job, Southgate focused on leading England at Euros. You can find details on page 16. Tinubu to address Joint National Assembly. Confusion hits president camp. Onanuga Igarale issues conflicting statements. You can find details on page 3. One-year anniversary. Labour Party lawmakers fire Tinubu, says Nigeria's economy in free fall. Kano Emirship tussle. Conflicting court orders unsettle Emirate as Bayero stays put. 5.7 trillion naira budget padding allegations. Senate recalls suspended Senator Abdul Ningi. You can find details on page 9. New minimum wage meeting deadlock as Labour rejects federal government's fresh 60,000 naira offer. Details can be found on page 9. How Nigerian bank can compete with fintechs. Francis Findipe, former HSBC banker. You can find details on page 10. How I got to know my husband. This is from Vicky James. You can find details on page 15. And we have a picture story, a courtesy visit. President Bola Tinubu receives in audience Tony Blair, former UK Prime Minister, at the State House in Abuja. And that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On the Voice of Liberty, still on minimum wage, organized labor reject federal government fresh 68,000 naira offer, and that meeting ended in deadlock. You can find more detail of that story in the paper. Number of distressed Nigerians rising because of Tinubu's harsh policy. This is coming from the Psychiatrists Association. You can find more detail of that inside the paper. 1 year in office, Nigeria not working under Tinubu, coming from Atiku. And on local government autonomy, President Tinubu litigation against governors appropriate. Chairman RKRG Ramalan, where we are having the chairman Renew Kaduna Group and executive chairman Liberty TV, has actually commended the president for dragging state governors to the Supreme Court over local government council autonomy, saying it was the appropriate step to take and the best one-year anniversary gifts to Nigerians. Detail found in the paper. Conflicting statement emerged from Tinubu's media aides on his first anniversary today. 1 year in office, Tinubu worse than Buhari. This is a report coming from the CUPP. And Ohaneze Indiba saying Tinubu's first year in office better than Buhari's 8 years. And still on the issue of the Kano Game of Thrones, where we are seeing Federal High Court order Sanusi eviction, State Court stop enforcement. We can find more detail of that inside the paper, and that's all on the front page of the paper.
On Nigerian Tribune, courts grant conflicting orders on Kano Emirate tussle. Heavy security at Bayero's palace despite eviction order. You can find details on page 6. on minimum wage. Labour again rejects federal government's fresh 60,000 naira offer, shifts to 494,000 naira. Details can be found on page 4. On the 2024, Jimo Ibrahim withdraws suit against Ayedatiwa, APC and INEC. And we have Ayatollah also giving his scorecard concerning the Maritime and Blue Economy Ministry, and he's saying they have raised over 92% of their revenue in 9 months. You can find details on page 2. The big story: 1 year of the Tinubu administration, building of safer, stronger and prosperous Nigeria. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On Daily Sun newspaper, Labour rejects 60,000 naira minimum wage offer, insists on the 494,000 naira, storm out of meeting with the federal government. More details found on page 27. Senate passes Kalu's bill seeking to increase Supreme Court justices to 33. Court orders removal of Emir Sanusi from Kano Palace. You can find more detail on page 5. Federal government Atiku disagree on state of economy. You can find that on page 6 and 25. And then we have the 1 year of the Tinubu administration, building a safer, stronger and prosperous Nigeria, where we are seeing the Renew Hope agenda priority areas included the economic reforms for sustained growth, strengthening the national security, boosting agriculture for food security, unlocking energy and natural resources, enhancing infrastructure and transportation, education, health and social investment, economic reforms for sustained growth, and improving governance. These are some of the key areas, about 8 of them, that are the key priority that the president is hoping to achieve during his tenure as the president of the country. And before we move forward, I think it will be out of place, since we are celebrating the 1 year, to talk a little. I mean, there's quite a lot to say, and just like you rightly mentioned, we're beginning to see various ministers coming out to present their own scorecard for what they were able to achieve. I think yesterday we saw that of the aviation, the fact that, I mean, the Nigeria Air is on suspension indefinitely, hoping when they will rectify the issue there. Here we are seeing talking about I think we also saw that of the Marine and Blue Economy, telling us how much they have been able to realize as revenue. And I'm yet to hear what the education minister is going to say about what has been happening at the educational sector. And then I think I'm surprised I'm yet to hear Minister for Natural Resources talking about solid minerals, solid minerals. I'm yet to hear his own feedback about what is happening, because I think he has been one of those people that have been saying how much we can realize from solid minerals in the country, and all of that. And here we are seeing, I mean, during the 1 year, there are 6 things, 6 advices that the PDP that's talking about Atiku is telling the Tinubu administration the fact that there are things he needs to address, especially one which actually align with some of the priorities that the president has here concerning education, as well as tackling the issue of security in the country. Here we are seeing, I mean, we're having the Ohanese are saying that, you know what, the first year has been a great one. And I think at this point, it's not a time for us to put words in the mouth of Nigerians. But just like I said from last week or so, that the people that actually have the right to score the president are the people, are the masses, are the citizens, because they had direct contact with all of the either the good or the bad of the priority of some of the policies that the president have made. Because I recall people are saying that it's not bad for the president to actually retrace the steps if there are certain policies that are not favorable. Especially, we kept making emphasis on the fact of floating of our naira, which was not the right thing to do out of that time. If only our economy was stable, we had so many infrastructure, then yes, we could have floated. Even though I know this was an advice that was coming from the IMF, but then this is not the first time they were giving that advice. They said that during the Buhari regime, and he refused to do that and all of that. So quite a lot. If we actually, I think that is the whole conversation everywhere, trying to analyze the first year. I remember Bishop Kuka saying it's too early to actually judge the president. I mean, this is just his first year. But I was of opinion, and I believe Nigerians are, of course, that most time you are being judged on your first 100 days in office. Let us see, what are you able to do? We've had governors that we saw their pictures. They're being applauded for what they were able or what they are still doing in their first year. So there's quite a lot. So I'm not just limiting this to the president, but we also have 28 governors that are on seat. So I think it's another time for us to actually analyze their regime as well. What have they been able to do in this first 1 year?
I'm waiting for Ribadu to give us his scorecard when it comes to security. Because for me, when it comes to security, the scorecard is low. A lot of weird things happen security-wise in this first 1 year. We can talk about the bombing at Tudumbiri in Kaduna State. We can talk about the kidnapping of the over 187, later on the government said it's 127 thereabouts, pupils. We can talk about what recently happened in Okwama, the Rivers community, and all of that.
Go to the FCT, that's been left out.
Exactly. A lot of unexplained things have happened regarding security. And up till today, Nigerians don't have a full picture, have no understanding whatsoever of what is really happening regarding security, and most especially for the happenings that kind of was the buzz on our papers for weeks and weeks going on and all of that. And we can also talk about Plateau State. You know, what is that? For Plateau, it is not new though, because we can understand there's a lot of herdsmen and Fulani gunmen, herders, and all of that on the Plateau. We've seen that for Bokos, we saw that in Mangu, and then all of that. But so many unexplained, the military, our armed forces have never are yet to really explain certain things. Okwama feels like a mystery up to today, like what really went on there. We've seen a lot of airstrike, accidental bombings, and nothing have been said about it, nothing concrete. We hear investigations going on, and then nothing have been said about it, and then we are just forced to move and just move on and just accept it, that we can't have an explanation for it. And I can't help but wonder, we are not getting an explanation. Is it because they also don't know what is happening, or we are just being kept in the dark? It's better that we're being kept in the dark. It's less harmful than our military not really knowing, not being on top of the situation. Then it means we will keep having repetitions of what is happening. No wonder we are 10 years counting, and we still have students being kidnapped and all of that. And these are things that I believe could be stopped completely. It's not something that after 10 years, when we thought our school children are safe, we see them being abducted and all of that. So the question is, are we being kept in the dark, or do we have our armed forces not knowing what is happening? They're not on top of the situation, and therefore they have little or nothing to give to us or tell us. So I'm just looking forward to more in-depth report. I keep saying it, Nigerians deserve to know what is going on in the country. These things are not supposed to, we are not supposed to be in the dark, but over the years we have accepted that this is what we can get, and then we move on. An end should come to that. Better explanation. People need to understand what is happening, because in the end, security is not only for the federal government. When it comes to security, it's a community, and you and I form a community. What is truly going on, and how can we as a community protect our lives, play our own role while we wait for the government to play their own bigger role in the picture and all of that. So I'm just looking forward to that, and then we can talk about education on a lot of levels, and just ask what new thing have been done concerning education, apart from the student loan scheme and all of that. What else have happened in education? Because so far so good, we've not seen anything. We know the number of schools we need to get out of school children back to school. We know the number of teachers we need for them to be effective Has recruitment started? Have there been any grand opening or foundation laying of any new LEA somewhere, any government secondary school somewhere? Do we have anything starting like that? And what improvement have been brought into our educational system? Like, everybody needs to present their scorecard and all of that. And I know it won't be much, but no matter how much, that's what growth is all about. It's just a little thing, but consistently, and then we'll see ourselves heading towards somewhere.
Well, I think we'll continue analyzing the remaining ministries later on,
Yes,
because there's quite a number of them we need to evaluate. Well, that's all on the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, strike looms as minimum wage talks end in deadlock again. Federal government OPS at 3,000 naira to earlier offers. Labour challenges government to break down its offer. Nationwide strike appears inevitable in June. Organized labor's demand may endanger job security. This is coming from OPS. You can find details on page 5. 1 year of the Tinubu's administration building a safer, stronger and prosperous Nigeria, which is on most of our papers, and that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, opposition loyalists bicker over Tinubu's performance and outlook, which is the big story on the paper. You can find on page 6. Another strike looms as Labour reject federal government fresh 60,000 naira wage offer. Where is President Tinubu's Renew Hope agenda? This is a question and also an editorial which you can find on page 16. If you want to know the answer, please turn to that page. 4,416 persons killed, 4,334 abducted under Tinubu report reveals. Now we're beginning to have people coming up with numbers and figures on what has been happening during the first year. As well, here in Kano, loyal crisis get messy as court issue conflicting orders. You can find on page 9. We're still having the 1 year of the Tinubu administration building a safe, strong and prosperous Nigeria. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Daily Independent, the big story, federal government earmarks 200 billion naira to tackle food insecurity and tame inflation. The writer says to roll out economic emergency plan for next 6 months, secures investment commitments worth over $30 billion. Details can be found on page 28. On wage, federal government labor negotiations deadlocked as government proposed 60,000 naira. And I think that our prediction is beginning to play out. It's almost like a beat. And now we're at 60,000. And I know that the federal government eventually get to 70,000, probably 80,000. But then we'll see where the beat will end eventually. And of course, labor will have to shift grounds. And then we have a congratulations from Tantita Security Services Nigeria Limited to the president on hitting the 1 year mark. And that's all the news on Daily Independent newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, sued against Governor Passa chairman fault the federal government for excluding legislative financial autonomy. More detail found in the paper, where we're having their only concern about the local government, forgetting that the legislature as well are in need of their own financial autonomy. More detail found in the paper. The 1 year of the Tinubu's administration, which is the story we've been seeing on most of the paper, celebrating the first year of the president, and that's all on Daily Times newspaper.
On First News, Labour rejects federal government's fresh 60,000 naira minimum wage offer, pushes for 494,000 naira. Enemies camp in confusion with Odili Mbata's support for my government. This is coming from Fubara. Minister of Works walks out on journalists, declares press non-existent. Stockbrokers raise alarm over bill threatening CBN's autonomy. 1 year in office, support Tinubu's government, Buhari urges Nigerians. The big story, Kano Emirate power struggle intensifies. Federal High Court orders Emir Sanusi will evictions, and state court blocks security agencies from enforcement intense standoff. Like Rep, Senate passes bill to revert to old national anthem, Nigeria We Hail Thee. Senate pardons and recalls suspended Senator Abdul Ninki. We won't let you down, Tinubu assures Wike. Presidency denies Tinubu's address in National Assembly, calls report false and unauthorized. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper. Mixed feelings as Tinubu and governors mark 1 year in office. Buhari, Abbas, Kalu drum up support for president. Atiku CUPP scored the government low. Discordant tunes in presidency over Tinubu's plan to address the National Assembly today. More detail found on page 3, 6, 28, 29, and 30. The minimum wage, Labour reject the government 60,000 naira offer, cuts the demand to 494,000 naira. Walks out of negotiation. You can find detail on page 26. Lack of funds stalling ambassador's appointment. This is coming from the minister, the foreign affairs minister. Detail found on page 29. Kanu Emir, tussle confusion over conflicting court orders. And we're still having the 1 year of the Tinubu's administration as well. And that is all the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Point newspaper, paucity of funds delaying appointment of new ambassadors. A report from the minister says Foreign Affairs Ministry not receiving necessary funding to operate effectively. Assures government addressing issue, lists Tinubu's biggest achievement. Again, Labour rejects federal government's fresh 60,000 naira minimum wage offer, adjusts to 494,000 naira. Minimum wage committee meeting postponed indefinitely. Blue economy records 95% revenue growth in the first quarter of 2024, a report from the minister. Courts grant conflicting orders on Kanu Emirate tussle. Ekiti man to die by hanging for murder. You can find details inside the paper. Also inside the paper on Doe 2024, Jimo Ibrahim withdraws suit against Aiyedatiwa, APC and INEC. That's all the news on the Point newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Seyi Makinde, 1,827 days of engineering a modern Oyo State, detail found on page 4. And on clean water, Lagos to revive 5 Boribon water works. Marine Ministry poses 92% revenue increment in the first quarter of 2024. We hope that they get it right. Where we're having the point is saying 95%. Other papers are saying 92% revenue increment. So I hope that the report can be gotten clearly. Abiodun score 85% rating on agro-cargo airport infrastructure. This is coming from Dibasco. Federal government flags off decade of gas grassroots LPG penetration program. More detail found on page 9. And on the 1 year anniversary, Tinubu's government freed over 4,600 hostages, neutralized 9,300 security threats. This is coming from the minister. And here the writer say Atiku cannot achieve in 8 years what Tinubu has accomplished in his first year in office. This is coming from the APC, of course. It's that time where we begin to hear what other parties will say, and here we're having the APC. But just like I always say, Richard, the fact that just concentrate and deliver, just give the people what they want rather than trying to point a finger now, because this might be in regards to the response, the 6 advices that the PDP was actually giving the president concerning what he needs to do, some of the policies that he made that were not favorable, talking about the removal of the fuel subsidy, talking about even electricity hike, talking about floating over an naira, and many other policies that, you know, did not sit well with a number of Nigerians. So here we're seeing the APC saying Atiku cannot achieve that. Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed and see more scorecard coming from people regarding that.
I mean, Sele, as much as I am grateful that the ministers are trying to score their president high, I would appreciate it if numbers are not being inflated just to, you know, emphasize on the fact that his scorecard is good. I mean, 4,600 hostages, knowing fully well the reports we've been seeing on the paper, this number is clearly inflated. And except if we, just as I keep saying, except if we're in the dark, except if we don't get information as it is, which of course that is also wrong from the government. I keep saying it, when we try to do certain things and we're not doing it, it just keeps showing the gap, it shows our lapses and all of that. But from Tinubu's administration since 2023 now to 2024, 1 year fully, and 4,600 hostages, knowing the numbers we kept on following, the abducted people, the success that was recorded, people that were freed. We know we saw some people that have been in the Boko Haram and then being released, the Sambisa, and all of those numbers, 4,600, we saw where the number from the defense headquarters was not 4,600 of the people they were able to take out of captivity. So I don't know how the minister's own number compared to the people who did the job of the rescuing is different from all of that. So let our numbers just be right and all of that concerning how many people have been really released from captivity in Nigeria, rather than just inflating numbers just to, you know, really make things look good, whereas they're not. Yes, there is credit to be given, but I mean, don't falsify it to this extent. It won't do good to anybody eventually.
You know, Rachel, I would have appreciated we have the number of people that are still in the dent.
Exactly.
I think that number will be what will make our security agency to know how much work they still have left on ground, rather than having successes. I know, of course, these successes have a way of boosting their morale to do better and to also work well. Just like you say, you're waiting for Ribado to give his own, like, what has been happening in your department, because you are the advisor when it comes to the issue of security. What have you been doing regarding that? So, just like you say, I will appreciate, let us see, how many people are still out there? I mean, I'm yet to hear about the IDP camps. Are we forgetting that there are people that are living there? The issue that happened in Mangu was regarding those from the IDP who were going back to their farmland to see what they can do, and their cattle just, you know, ate their, you know, their crops and all of that. And, you know, when it comes to, you definitely have to air your view. This is not right. And I remember where we said it here, that it's already the rainy season. Definitely people are planting. If there is a way that we can have all these cattle rearers, please stay clear of people's farm. Stay clear, except you're looking for trouble. Stay clear. The same way you appreciate, you love, and you value your animals and your cattle, the same way these farmers also appreciate, because without them we can't have food, and it's part of the 8-point agenda of the president to have food security. So when you keep eating the crops, where are we going to get the you know, the plants and the foodstuff we'll be saving for next year? Already our silos are empty. So something needs to be done. As much as we're looking at the 1 year, there are so many other little details that we are forgetting, and those are the things that can sum up and amount to something big, the achievement we hope to see. So, Rachel, we'll just keep our fingers crossed regarding that. And the last story on Nigerian News Direct here say all Dangote cement trucks to run on CNG by 2025. This is coming from Aliko Dangote, and we can see the picture story over there. During two picture story, we can see Aliko Dangote, and the other we are having another picture story, so you can do well to take a closer look and see more details of any story that is of interest to you. But then, right before we continue, we would love to hear your own views, because we would love to take a time out at this moment. Quite a lot to chew on the paper, looking at the president as well as our governor's first year in office. Quite a lot, a number of people already airing their views, and we are having our various ministers scoring themselves what they have been able to achieve in the first 1 year. And I think it is important we also hear your own opinion on how you intend to score the president, his ministers, as well as our governors. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after this tea break.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. It's still the dailies. We have been looking at the scorecard of the president as well as the ministers in the first year. Congratulatory messages have been flying on all the papers, also analyzing the 8-point agenda of the president, which he hoped to achieve during his Renew Hope regime during this time. So we would love to hear your own views. We want to hear what you can or what you are actually scoring the president regarding all of his achievement or some of the policies which you feel are not right. You can drop that on our Facebook and YouTube. I still have Rachel Tells with me in the studio. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's continue the paper review, and we will be looking at the Nation newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, nation's economy growing, says Edun. 75 million to get cash transfer. Ayatollah is saying we've raised marine revenue by 92%. Although APC primary, my respect for Tinubu absolute, says Jimo. Emir crisis, conflicting orders of courts in Kano. You can find details of both stories on page 43 and page 8, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On Sweet Crew reports, letter C, we have NOSDRA kickstart engagement with stakeholders in the NOSCP implementation. You can start reading that on the front page and continue on page 2. Global oil market weakened over sluggish demand, more detail in the paper. Nigeria earned 16.3 billion naira for mining loyalty in the first year. We have Bonga is asset of the year in Shell Group. More detail can be found in the paper. We have various weekly basket prices, the update on what has been happening in the oil sector. So you can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, the big story, Saudi club joins Chelsea, PSG in race for Osimhen. Napoli star ruled out of South Africa, Benin Republic ties. You can find details on page 6. Messi stuns fans by speaking English on Bad Boys trailer. You can find details at the back page. Lukman orders to receive Bergamo's highest honor. You can find details on page 6. Chelsea set to appoint Maresca new manager in £10 million deal. You can find details on page 2. I want Real Madrid to be my last cup. This is from Luka Modric. You can find details on page 3. Fluminense announces Haaland signing. Marshall says goodbye to United fans. You can find details on page 2. Lyon ready to steal in the deal from Premier League clubs. Details can be found on page 6. Only on West Ham radar. Details can be found on page 6. On WAFUB Under-17 Championship, Eagles qualify for Under-17 AFCON, beat Ghana. You can find details on page 6. Aruna reclaims top spot, leaps to 17 in ITTF ranking. You can find details at the back page. And then we have Florentina Olympiacos set to battle for Conference League glory. Saudi clubs ready to pay £100 million for Kevin De Bruyne. You can find details inside the paper. PSG joins race for Newcastle, £100 million Gomares. And that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the wall of business regarding the 1 year of the president. And on Business Day newspaper, trying to get my paper right. Sorry. Rachel, I don't know if you can help me take the Business Day.
Yes, on the Business Day newspaper, we have 1 year of the Tinubu's administration building a safer, stronger, and prosperous Nigeria, which has been on most of our paper, and that's all the news on Business Day newspaper.
All right, let's round it up with the Punch newspaper. And on the Punch, we have the Emirate tussle. Bayero states at court give conflicting orders on Sanusi. The minimum wage talk collapse again as Labour reject the 60,000 naira, and I wonder why we keep having this kind of a kangaroo jump concerning the amount that the government is giving, and no wonder Labour is saying, you know what, just give us a breakdown of how you achieve. You know, when I saw the 60,000 naira, I just couldn't help but say, is that the basic salary? Because we know that for every payment, you will have your housing, you will have your health, you will have other little allowances that are being added to your basic. So it's the 60,000 naira the basic before we add other allowances that will sum up to the 400 and something. Because I really need the government to make sense of this amount that you were suggesting for people. We know the way things are already. One of our papers, Richard, is saying the number of people who are going through depression is increasing ever since some of this policy. This is coming from the Psychiatry Association. So you will know that a number of things are happening in the country. So let us see how this whole talk will be, because as it is presently, even the minimum wage committee has been suspended for the meantime. So I wonder when they will. And we're having like about 2 days to hear what will be the deadline that Labour give the government. So our fingers are crossed. Let's see how this whole thing turns out. Yes. Still on the Punch newspaper, Tinubu's first anniversary gift. Federal government plans fresh cash transfer scheme for 75 million Nigerians. And Rachel, this is a question. Who are those Nigerians? Have we upgraded our social register for the people that will be getting it? This is the second paper that's capturing this story. So let's just wait and see the gift that the president will be gifting Nigerians, the 75 million Nigerians. And still on the Punch newspaper, 1 year of the Tinubu's administration building a safer, stronger, and prosperous Nigeria. Let me just read a little because it's on most of our paper here. It said, Nigeria democratic journey has been met with challenges, yet the election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu marked a significant turning point. His historical victory and assumption of office on May 29, 2023 heralded a new era of hope, and as a statesman with remarkable credentials and a commitment to democracy, President Tinubu has long been a unifying forces across Nigeria. So you can get any of the papers because it's on most of the paper, and continue to read what the Renew Hope agenda and some of the priority areas have been, and that is how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me. And also thank you to our viewers, thank you to our supporters for making it out to watch the dailies. Until we come again tomorrow, please do have a great day ahead.